My name is Lena, and I am 28 years old. I live in a small apartment in the city, and I work in a library. I have always loved books, and my job allows me to spend my days surrounded by stories. But my own life has always felt like a story I could not read completely. I grew up in a family that seemed perfect on the outside, but inside, everything was not as it seemed. From a very young age, I noticed that my parents treated my brother, Daniel, differently. Daniel is 3 years older than me, and he always seemed to get everything he wanted. He had the best clothes, the newest toys, and even special attention from our parents that I never received. Whenever I asked for something, my mother would say, "Maybe later, Lena. Be patient." But when Daniel asked, she would immediately say yes, her face lighting up with pride. At first, I thought this was normal. Maybe parents love the older child more because they are first. Maybe Daniel was just more difficult, and I didn't need the same attention. I tried to ignore it and focused on school and my small achievements. But deep down, I always felt invisible, like a shadow in my own home. My brother was smart, charming, and popular. Everyone at school liked him. People always said, "Daniel is so talented. He will do great things." I tried to be happy for him, but it hurt. I was good at my studies too, but my parents rarely praised me. I would bring home high grades, and my father would smile politely and say, "That's good, Lena." But when Daniel got the same grades, he would get a small gift, maybe a book, or even a weekend trip somewhere. I kept these feelings hidden for many years. I told myself I should not compare myself to Daniel. I should be patient. Maybe life would treat me kindly one day. But the unfairness in my family never stopped. When I was 20, my parents started giving Daniel money. Not small amounts, but large sums for investments, cars, or business ideas. They even helped him move into a big apartment in the city. I was still living in my old room at home, paying for my university tuition and working part-time jobs. I never complained. I believed my parents were helping him because he had more opportunities, or maybe because he was responsible. But my heart hurt every time I saw them giving him gifts I could only dream of. Then one day, when I was 23, I discovered something that changed everything. I found a folder in my father's study. It was hidden behind old books, and the label said, "Family Matters." I was curious and nervous. I opened it quietly. Inside, there were letters, documents, and photos. My heart started to beat fast when I saw something I could not believe. There were bank statements showing large amounts of money being transferred to Daniel for years. But then, there were also medical records and letters I had never seen before. They revealed that my parents had made choices that were not fair, not because Daniel was better, but because of something they had kept hidden from me, something that explained why I had always felt invisible. I read and read. My parents had secretly decided to favor Daniel because they believed he had special abilities that I did not have. They thought he would succeed more in life. They called me ordinary in those documents. They wrote that they had tried to love me equally, but they worried that I would never achieve as much. Every word cut me deeply. I felt like my heart had been broken into pieces. I tried to confront my parents. I asked, "Why did you give everything to Daniel? Why did you hide this from me?" My mother's eyes filled with tears. "Lena, we only wanted the best for both of you. We thought you would not understand." My father said nothing. I felt like I was talking to strangers. The parents I loved, the people I trusted, had lied to me my entire life. For weeks, I could not sleep. I could not eat properly. I walked around my small apartment, staring at the walls, thinking about my brother, and trying to understand why life had been so cruel. Daniel didn't know about the documents. He had no idea that I had discovered the truth. I wanted to tell him, but I wasn't sure how. Part of me was angry at him, and part of me still loved him as my brother. At work, I could not focus. Every book I organized, every student I helped, felt like a small task in a world where my family had already decided my fate. I wanted to scream, but I had no one to scream at. I wanted revenge, to make them see how much pain they had caused me, but I also feared what that might do to our family. Then something happened that I did not expect. A letter arrived at my apartment. It was addressed to me in my mother's handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside, she wrote that she wanted to meet and talk. She said, "I want to explain everything, Lena. Please come home tomorrow evening." I was scared. I wanted to go and confront her, but part of me wanted to hide forever. I wanted to forget the anger and pain, but I knew I couldn't. I also knew that if I wanted answers, I had to face her. The next evening, I went to my parents' house. The lights were warm, the smell of food and flowers familiar. But the home I entered felt strange, cold, and heavy with secrets. My mother was waiting, and she looked tired. She motioned for me to sit. She began to speak, her voice shaking. She told me stories about my early childhood, the struggles she and my father faced, and why they thought Daniel needed more attention. She tried to make me understand, but every word felt like a knife twisting in my heart. "I never meant to hurt you, Lena," she said. "We only wanted him to succeed. We thought he would carry the family forward. You were always talented, but in our eyes, he needed more." I could not respond. I wanted to scream, to cry, to hug her, to run away, all at the same time. I realized then that life had already made its choices, and I had been living under their shadow without even knowing why. When I left their house that night, I felt cold and empty. The city lights looked dim, and the air felt heavy with truth. I knew that life was about to change. I could not go back to being the quiet, invisible sister. Something had awakened in me, a fire I had never felt before. I decided I would uncover more secrets. I would find out the full truth about my parents, about Daniel, and about the family that had hidden so much from me. I did not know how far I would go, but I promised myself one thing. I would never let anyone decide my worth again. The days after I discovered the hidden documents were the hardest I had ever faced. I could not focus at work, and even the library, a place I had always loved, felt cold and empty. My mind was full of questions, and every thought seemed to circle around one truth. My parents had always favored Daniel, but why? What had I done to deserve this shadow in my life? I started to look for answers. I went through old photo albums, letters, and even the small boxes in the attic that I had never touched. There were notes from my father's business, letters from family friends, and even gifts that had been kept away for Daniel alone. Every discovery made my heart ache more. One afternoon, while searching through a box of old letters, I found something shocking. There were letters from Daniel himself, written when he was only a teenager. He had written about how he felt guilty for always getting more attention and how he wished I could be happy too. He had pleaded with our parents in his letters, asking them to treat me equally. My hands shook as I read the words. My brother had cared, but my parents had ignored him. I felt a mixture of anger and sorrow. My parents had made Daniel their favorite, but it was not Daniel's fault. He had been kind, humble, and thoughtful all these years, while I had been left in the shadows. The unfairness of it all hit me hard. I realized that this was not just about gifts or money. It was about choices that had shaped my entire life. Then, one evening, I decided to confront Daniel. I called him and asked to meet at a small cafe in the city. I wanted to hear his side, to see if he had any idea about the truth. When he arrived, I saw him sitting there, looking nervous but smiling when he saw me. He looked the same as he had when we were kids, warm, kind, and honest. "Lena," he said softly, "you look upset. Is everything okay?" I took a deep breath and looked into his eyes. "Daniel, did you know about the letters? About what Mom and Dad did?" He looked down, and his hands fidgeted with the cup in front of him. "Yes," he said quietly. "I knew they treated me differently. I tried to tell them to stop, but they never listened. I'm so sorry, Lena. I never wanted you to feel like you were invisible. I tried, but it was not enough." Tears filled my eyes. I wanted to hug him, to tell him it was not his fault, but I also felt a burning anger at our parents. Daniel reached across the table and held my hand. "I want to help you, Lena. We can fix this together." His words gave me hope, but I also realized that fixing things would not be easy. Our parents had spent decades shaping our lives, making choices that hurt me deeply. I knew I could not forgive them easily. I also knew that I needed to take control of my life, to make my own decisions without their interference. Over the next few days, Daniel and I started talking more. We shared memories from childhood, some happy, some painful. We laughed at small things, like the time I had spilled juice on my father's new carpet, and we cried over the moments we had lost. I realized that despite everything, Daniel was still my brother, and I still loved him deeply. But my trust in our parents had been broken forever. One evening, Daniel said something that shocked me. "Lena, I think Mom and Dad are hiding more from you. There are things about the family inheritance, things about money and property that they never told you. I overheard them talking once, and it didn't sound right." My heart pounded. I had suspected that there were more secrets, but hearing Daniel confirm it made me anxious and angry. "We need to find out," I said firmly. "We need to know the full truth. No more lies, no more hiding." Together, we started looking through old records, bank statements, and legal documents. Every day brought new discoveries. Our parents had made Daniel the heir to almost everything: the house, the savings, and even business contacts that I had worked for years to understand. But there were also letters and documents showing that they had intentionally blocked me from receiving my share. My hands shook as I read the legal language. It was deliberate, cruel, and unfair. I felt a storm of emotions: sadness, anger, betrayal, and a strange sense of empowerment. I realized that while I could not change the past, I could fight for my future. I would not be invisible any longer. I would not let my parents' choices dictate my life. That night, I called my best friend, Sophie, and told her everything. Sophie had always been my rock, and her voice gave me strength. "Lena, you have to stand up for yourself," she said firmly. "You deserve to be treated fairly. Don't let anyone take what is rightfully yours." Her words made me feel strong. I decided that I would confront my parents, not with anger, but with facts. I would show them that I had discovered everything, and I would demand fairness. But first, I needed a plan. I could not let emotions rule me. I had to think carefully. The next morning, I received a message that shook me even more. It was from a lawyer, a friend of Daniel's, who had agreed to help us. The message said that if we wanted to claim our rights, we would have to act quickly before my parents could make more arrangements to protect Daniel's inheritance. I felt a mixture of fear and determination. I had never been involved in anything like this before, but I knew I had no choice. The life I had lived, full of shadows and secrets, had brought me to this moment. It was time to fight for myself, to reclaim my place, and to uncover every hidden truth. Over the next few days, Daniel and I worked together. We organized all the documents, made copies, and wrote down every fact. We found letters that my parents had tried to hide, bank records showing large transfers of money, and even legal contracts that were never shared with me. Every discovery strengthened my resolve. I also realized something important. This was not just about money or property. It was about respect, love, and acknowledgement. My parents had treated me like I was less than their own child, and I could not let that continue. I wanted to show them that I was strong, capable, and deserving. One evening, while Daniel and I were reviewing the last set of documents, we found something that made my blood run cold. There were emails and letters showing that my parents had made secret deals with distant relatives, giving Daniel advantages that were never meant for me. It was a betrayal on a level I had never imagined. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. "This ends now," I whispered to myself. "I will not be ignored. I will not be invisible. I will face them, and I will claim what is rightfully mine." Daniel put his hand on my shoulder. "We're in this together, Lena. You are not alone anymore. We will face them, and we will win, no matter what." I nodded, feeling a strange mix of fear and courage. I knew the coming days would be hard. I knew my parents would not give up easily, but I also knew that I had discovered my own strength. I had been living in their shadow for too long, and now I was ready to step into the light. The next morning, I called my parents and asked them to meet at the house. My voice was calm, but my heart was racing. I knew this meeting would change everything. Either they would listen or they would try to fight me. Either way, I was prepared. As I walked toward the house, I remembered all the years of being invisible, all the moments of unfairness, all the nights of silent tears. I also remembered the moments with Daniel, our shared love, and our new understanding. I realized that while the past could not be changed, the future was mine to decide. And that future, I promised myself, would not include hiding in shadows anymore. It would be full of courage, truth, and justice. The morning I walked into the living room, my heart was beating fast. Daniel was already there, sitting quietly, his hands folded. He looked at me and gave a small nod. I knew this was the moment to face my parents, to demand answers, to reclaim my life. My mother was sitting on the couch, her hands tight on her lap. My father stood by the window, looking out but avoiding my gaze. Both looked calm on the surface, but I could see the tension in their eyes. "Mom, Dad," I began, my voice shaking slightly. "We need to talk. Daniel and I know about the inheritance, the letters, and the money. We know everything." My mother's eyes widened slightly. My father turned to look at me, his expression unreadable. "What do you mean, Lena?" my father asked slowly. "What are you talking about?" I took a deep breath. "We know that you always gave everything to Daniel. You hid letters from me. You blocked me from receiving my share. And you made secret deals with relatives to give him advantages. We have all the documents." My mother opened her mouth but did not speak. My father's hands clenched into fists. I continued, my voice growing stronger. "Daniel and I are not asking for a fight. We are asking for the truth. Why? Why did you treat me like I was invisible?" The room was silent for a long moment. Then my mother spoke, her voice soft, almost breaking. "Lena, we did it for your own good. We thought Daniel needed more. He was always weaker, more fragile. You are strong. You could handle things." "Handle things?" I said, my voice rising. "You made me feel worthless for years. You ignored me. You made me cry silently. You gave him everything and left me in the shadows. Is that what you call helping me?" My father spoke next, his voice low and firm. "We never meant to hurt you. We only wanted to protect the family." "Protect the family?" I repeated, tears welling up in my eyes. "You protected your favorite, not me. You gave him happiness, opportunities, love, everything, while I was left alone. Do you know how that feels?" Daniel finally spoke. "Mom, Dad, Lena has a right to know everything. She deserves fairness. You cannot hide the truth anymore." My parents looked at Daniel, surprised by his courage. I realized that we were united now. Daniel and I were no longer children waiting for approval. We were two adults demanding honesty and justice. My mother's voice shook. We didn't know how to tell you. We thought you would be angry. You would leave. We didn't know what to do." "I'm angry," I admitted, my voice softening slightly. "But I'm also done being weak. I need my life to be mine. I need the truth to live freely." Then my father spoke, and his voice was heavy with guilt. "Lena, we were wrong. We see it now. We didn't treat you fairly, and we are sorry." I felt a mix of relief and frustration. Apologies were not enough, but they were a start. I wanted change, not just words. I wanted my place in the family, my recognition, and my right to live without feeling invisible. Over the next few days, Daniel and I worked with the lawyer to adjust the inheritance fairly. We were not greedy. We just wanted what was rightfully ours. The process was slow and sometimes painful, but it felt empowering. I finally felt in control of my life. One evening, after a long day, I sat in my childhood room, now filled with my own memories, my own achievements, and my own things. Daniel came in and sat beside me. "You did it," he said softly. "You faced them. You are strong, Lena." I smiled, a real smile, the kind that comes from feeling whole for the first time. "I did it for me," I said, "and for you too. We are together in this now." Daniel reached out and held my hand. "We always were together, even when they didn't see it." In the weeks that followed, life changed in ways I had never imagined. My parents began to treat me with respect, slowly learning that favoritism was wrong. They tried to repair the relationship, but I took it carefully. Forgiveness would come with time. I also started to live for myself, not in their shadows. I took a small job in a new hospital, one that allowed me to focus on my career and my happiness. I bought a small apartment, decorated it with my own style, and finally felt like I had a space to call my own. Daniel and I grew closer every day. We laughed, cried, and shared stories about our childhood. He was no longer just my brother. He was my partner in rebuilding our lives. Together, we faced the mistakes of the past and built a stronger bond than we had ever had. One afternoon, while sitting in a park near my apartment, I thought about all the years I had spent feeling invisible. I realized that all the pain had shaped me into someone stronger, someone who could fight for herself, someone who could demand respect and love. I picked up my phone and sent a message to my parents. I am ready to move forward, but only if honesty and fairness continue. I am no longer a shadow. I am Lena, and I am proud of who I am. My mother replied almost immediately, "We understand. We are sorry. We will do better." I smiled. It was not a perfect resolution, but it was a start. I finally felt free from the burden of secrets, favoritism, and hidden truths. I was no longer living in the shadow of my parents' choices. I was standing in my own light. The experience taught me lessons I would never forget. Life is fragile, and family can sometimes be cruel, but strength comes from facing the truth and demanding fairness. I learned to trust my instincts, to speak up for myself, and to protect my heart. Daniel and I often talk about how far we've come. We no longer see our past as only pain. We see it as the force that brought us closer, made us stronger, and taught us the value of honesty and courage. Looking back, I realized that my parents' favoritism could have destroyed me, but it didn't. I chose to fight. I chose to reclaim my life. And in the end, I discovered not just fairness, but a family bond that was stronger than secrets and lies. As I write this now, I feel a warmth in my chest. I know there will always be challenges, but I am ready. I am no longer invisible. I am seen. I am heard. And I will never forget the truth that set me free. If you enjoyed this story of family secrets, courage, and heart-shocking revelations, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel Cozy English Story. Hit the bell icon to get notified of new English stories that are heartfelt, dramatic, and easy to understand. Tell us in the comments, have you ever discovered a family secret that changed everything? We'd love to hear your story. Join our community of story lovers and improve your English while exploring real-life drama, emotion, and unforgettable lessons